Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Under Construction. This is episode 45 at a guess, and I'm your host, Ellis, otherwise known as Trainman, and we are here up by the VMR at the, well, what direction is this? So that's north, at like the southish end of where everything is so far. And this episode, we've got a few things we need to work on. The biggest one for me is actually doing some hydro work, some water. In this river and in Little Creek, and I did some more grass over here in the meantime. I know this is late because I haven't had like a 2-hour block to set aside for this, but I have had time in between, so I did a little bit of grass work and I did some work in here periodically, so, you know, it's looking better. It's looking pretty good, I would say. But we're not in the same, I haven't really gotten that far down the line. So also grass work over here is important, and I think we need to do the telephone poles back over there. That's something that sticks out at me. Something that I should probably invest some time into. Let me open this to see how everything is. Oh, everything's pegged. Yeah, it's not great. Well, I don't really know what we can do to make everything better. Although, I could, like, turn off shadows. I've been thinking about that. Like, I like shadows, and it makes the world look awesome. It doesn't really have a purpose when I'm recording. So, yeah, I'm not sure if we should actually bother with shadows. But anyways, let's do the difficult stuff first, because the game is going to fight us, and install some power lines. I'll grab this. UW basic power pole. Also, I flattened this out a little bit, because this section here was too steep. Just slightly. And it was only the one section, but it was too steep. So, fixed. Whoa. Okay, so get back here. Yeah, I should almost definitely turn shadows off, because that will probably help quite a bit. Ow. So let's do that. And then maybe like this. That looks good. Enough. That building probably doesn't have power. The other thing is I need to run power down the road. Also, I do have quite a few comments to address, a couple of which I'm actually kind of excited to address, because I went and I watched the trailer for Titfield Thunderbolt, and I want to talk about it. And I want to talk about like what my expectations were, and the fact that they were subverted, which is slightly disappointing, but now I know what I want from the universe, from Hollywood. And also, moreover, maybe I should write something to that effect, because no, I can do that. I can write something. Alright, we're gonna go this way. Oh, we missed a little spot of texture, huh? Let me grab some little bitty spot of texture there. Any place there a grid needs to be fixed. So this way. Just basically in this general direction. That building has power. Stupid chickeny. Okay, so this way. This way. Oh, this house does as well. And this sawmill. Actually, the sawmill might not. We'll just do that for now, because I don't really think we can make it look properly better. Oh, and I didn't fill in this little gap while I was working over here, so that... kind of a mistake. I probably should have. Well, at least I can do this well enough. Can I? Without it bending weirdly? I guess. And then we need to take this into the woods, which we still need to dirt up this area. Okay. Yeah, I need to clear out these trees a little bit more too. That one can go. I'm not sure where I can get my hands on. Like, I kind of do still want to watch Titfield Thunderbolt. I was just hoping it was something slightly different, which would have tickled my fancy a little bit more. You know, I don't think it's going to be bad, and in fact, it looks pretty funny. But, yeah, let me just jump into that comment, because I'm already talking about it. Alistar Severn says, the Titfield Thunderbolt is about a group of villagers trying to keep their branch line operating after British Railways decided to close it. This film was released in 1953. I don't know why I didn't pick up on that the first time I read this comment. The name Titfield is an amalgamation of the villages of Limpsfield and Titsea in Surrey, according to Wikipedia. The government transport department decides to grant them some money to run the line with a month trial period and an inspection at the end. After a series of events where the local bus operators try to sabotage it, destroying their only working locomotive, they end up stealing the ancient Thunderbolt from the local museum the night before the inspection. So, yeah, I decided, I read that, and I went, okay, this sounds like something I have to see, because it sounds hilarious and fantastic. And then I watched the trailer, and the trailer opens with, you know, this little engine. It's like an 042 going through, you know, the countryside and generally surprising people, you know, knocking over fences and doing whatever. And I thought, that's awesome. It's this engine they pulled out of the museum. But no, that's the actual engine. That's their singular engine that ends up getting destroyed. And I'm sitting here going, oh, that's right. It's in 1953. Of course, it's, you know, it's going to be steam, and that sort of took the wind out of my sails a little bit, because that, you know, that idea of, you know, the steam engine surprising everyone is sort of what I was hoping for with the big reveal with the Titfield Thunderbolt. And now I realize, like, the thing that I want from, like, I want a modern day version of this, or at least a, you know, a slightly more updated version of this where it's the steam engine itself that's the surprise. And the unusual thing. You know, I feel like that would lend it so much more. You know, I feel like in a modern context, at least from me watching it, you know, now, I feel like that would give it a lot more, well, it would give it more draw for me. It would give it, you know, it'd tickle sort of the anachronistic fantasies of a lot of people to, you know, pull a steam locomotive out of storage and have it run this line. I mean, naturally, you know, there are things that wouldn't necessarily make sense, you know, put in a modern context, and especially in a US context, you know, having to deal with the FRA and having to deal with this, but I don't think it would work as well in a British context, you know, even in the modern day. Sort of trying to give the impression, the thought that I'm trying to go for, because, you know, you see steam much more often. You know, I won't say it's typical, because it's not by any means, but it's more common to see just a steam engine running sort of wherever, because the regulations are a lot more open, I suppose. A lot more open to that kind of thing. Whereas in the U.S., it's, it can be difficult to properly run a steam locomotive. Although, comparatively difficult, and that's for taking it on the main line and stuff. Whereas, it's not, it's not difficult. It's not, not difficult in the sense of it's damn near impossible. The difficult part comes not from regulations, it comes from money and labor, which are in part imposed, by the mandatory inspections and stuff like that, but, those rules weren't decided arbitrarily. They were decided by a group of people who were not unfamiliar with the things they were regulating. So, it's not as if the folks who are trying to run steam locomotives in the U.S. have been done some great, injustice by the Federal Railroad Administration. The people delivering injustices these days seem to be Amtrak, but that's a topic for the podcast, not a topic for here. But anyways, yeah, I would love to see, and now I'm thinking this in my head, trying to circumvent the issues that would inevitably come up with a script, where you're trying to keep it true to life. Well, and, but in the context of Amtrak sort of pulling back on these services, as it has, not announced, but has alluded to as of late. I think it could provide a backdrop for something like this. At the same time, though, that is largely long-distance services, which would be basically impossible to do. If you look at something, however, like, I think the prime candidate for it would be something like the Maine Eastern, where they, after getting sold to a different company, they decided to cut back on service. Although, I think an even better version of that would probably be with something like a commuter service instead of Amtrak. So, the Long Island Railroad or Metro North or the MBTA or Metra or something like that. They are planning on cutting back on some line. Although I feel like it would have to be a line that is fairly distant from where a steam locomotive typically operates, or where there's a locomotive that not generally, but that runs, semi-often or on a semi-regular basis. So you couldn't do it with, a line near a major railroad museum that runs steam. It would have to be near a much smaller railroad museum, probably a sort of podunk area that doesn't typically run steam, but that doesn't have the money for maybe the operation, or maybe, yeah, because it would have to be something that it's not illegal to do necessarily. So it would have to be something with a boiler certificate, but something that doesn't run. What am I thinking about? There was a well, Saratoga and North Creek is closing down because they don't have the money to run their trains, but that's not a commuter railroad. And I'm thinking of, like, okay, I don't know of any steam locomotives operating in the state of Massachusetts. I don't know where one would be. In fact, I'm not sure there are too many surviving ones. I know there's a locomotive in Palmer, which, is a long, long way from ever running again, but that could be sort of the catalyst for something like that. But then again, Palmer is not currently in the sort of locale. I don't know. It'd be difficult to do in a modern context because you don't have all these. At least in what I would like to do, which is you pull a steam engine out of retirement to run the service. But it would have to be something not insignificant for a steam engine as well. You couldn't just pull an 060 out of service to run the thing. Although maybe you could. But ideally, you'd want something with a little bit more. What's the word? Sort of spring in its step, I guess is what I'm going for. A little bit more speed. I don't know, I'm thinking about this. Because I feel like one of the most important things is pulling... the most important facets of the film is pulling the engine out of a museum to operate a service. And... yeah. The only thing I could think of is if you have a hypothetical future, or a hypothetical present where Main Central 470 is operable. And 470 is, is able to get a boiler certificate or has one. It's, again, everything is there. The company just doesn't operate it. The people don't operate it for whatever reason, because maybe they can't get proper clearance to run over the Main Eastern. And I'm having a lot of artistic liberties right now, but then the idea is, okay, so the Main Eastern is getting sold to another operator. They are no longer going to be able to run the trains that they usually run, which was a service that ran from Brunswick all the way to Rockford, Maine, I believe it is. And I talked about this briefly on the podcast because we talked about how there was a proposed extension of the Downeaster in that direction. Yeah. I'm thinking. I'm doing a brain right now. 470 would be really the only candidate for that. These main towns. Yeah, and it would work because they have the connection to Amtrak. I think that would be, as far as I know, it would be the best place to do it. Unless you want to, again, go with a commuter service that's cutting back, like the MBTA. But again, I don't know a locomotive that would be suitable for that. Unless you're pulling a locomotive out of North Conway to use on a commuter line that's going to Boston. Or... And I'm trying to ground this in a real context as opposed to sort of going and making a whole bunch of stuff up, which I could easily do. Of course, I could make a whole world, but yeah, where else would this? I don't know where else this would happen because I don't know too many other commuter services well enough. I don't know a steam engine here in upstate New York that could fill in something, or even... Oh, you know what? I think I just came up with something. So there's 1455, which is an XB&M mogul. Well, yeah, XB&M, I guess. Which is sitting at Danbury. Say that was farther along. And they were going to shut down one of the Metro North commuter services, because I believe Metro North goes to Danbury. That would actually work. Although, if they wanted to do it that way, I feel like they would have many other better options than using 1455. But if you bend reality a little bit and say that that's how they're pulling their trains in this day and age, or that's how they want to, or even further, maybe the museum is closed down because they weren't getting enough money, and they've sort of stopped doing that, but it hasn't. Its 15-year ticket hasn't expired yet. That could make sense. That could work. I'd need to look at sort of the area, though, and see how realistic that would be. I would like to sort of storyboard this. Metro North, due to, declining revenues and, something political probably, is going to start, is going to be closing down service between the Northeast Corridor, wherever it meets. I don't know the name of the town. I think it might be Stamford. And Danbury, Connecticut. And they turn the line, I don't know who owns that line, but they turn the line over to the respective towns, because they're not using it. They move for abandonment, and the towns get the right-of-way turned over to them, and there's a public outcry within the town. There we go. Now we have the roads marked. There's a public outcry within the towns to somehow continue the service, and so they are. You know what? Actually, that could factor in. So, but the bus companies want to make a move and set up a commuter bus service, but the residents aren't having none of it, and so they petition their local politicians, to get some funding to run the thing, and they start using, maybe an RDC or something that's, that's outdated but is still, usable as one might expect. And let me see here. So I want to delete a whole bunch of water, probably as much as I can. And just in case I put water down here, which I don't think I did, but okay. This is when river splines actually come in kind of handy. Alright, so I'm going to try to be very careful here. Okay, it's a little bit too much water. Oh crap, that is way too much water. I really hate doing this. It's such a pain. Okay, I don't know why it's still adding at 0. Put water there. Let's see. Lower this area slightly. Okay, and let's do one with a small radius. Oh, whoops. And then 2 with a small radius. And then 3 with a small radius. Careful. There we go. It doesn't need to look great, it just needs to look like it exists. Alright, 4. Aha! Ooh, that actually does look not bad. Although I am gonna increase it 1 more. 5. But it looks like a very fun film. British humor is usually pretty great anyways. Okay, still thinking about a lot of things, including Titfield. Wouldn't I love to visit a place called Titfield? Alright, 5. How about 6? We actually need 7 now. So we are very slowly going to climb. Okay, how about 8? Not enough. I will probably have to constrict this later. But this is how you do it. You go up and you slowly add. Right until when it comes to the end there, and then you add a little bit more. Yeah, okay, right there. 11. And eventually we'll get to a place where we're going up more than one at a time. Up there, probably. 12, after we delete some water. But right here, it's pretty sedate. I will come back to the Titfield Thunderbolt notion, probably. Oh crap, what have I done? Okay, sure. I'll take it, whatever. I don't know why that was happening. 14. I delete that. 15. Okay. 16. And I do want to add some 15 over here. Okay, put that back. 16. No. 17. No. Okay, we need to delete this back to here. We're going up more than one at a time now. 17. Yes. Okay. I think here we can afford to go up just one, though. 18. Delete this. 19. I think it deleted slightly too much. 19. There we go. 20. 21. Just being careful, my dudes. You gotta take it easy. 22. This is not great. Alright. We'll have to spend an interesting fun time texturing in here, probably. Because this... okay. Did not make a lot of sense when I just looked at it. Still doesn't. How about 23? And then 24. Very slowly climbing this hill. I will grab another comment in just a minute. Alright, let's do it. Oh, let me grab the other one from Alistair. I remember a video of yours where you did a running session on the Temeral's Veil and Anaconda in TRS 12, so you must have moved it over at some point. Yeah, I did. I did. It did get moved over to 12. There was a point in time where I could no longer open, like, routes in 12, which is when I moved over to Tane with the Iron Horseman route. Yeah, by then I had sort of passed on the TV and ARR because, like, I had put it on the back burner when I started working on the Horseman, but the real thing that did it in was the fact that I could no longer access it. I must have a CDP somewhere. But I don't know. Huh. I would have to look for it, which I do save a lot of things as CDPs, like a crazy amount of things. So, like I've said before, I'm a digital hoarder. 28. Next is 29. We're counting up. Yeah. The TV and ARR definitely had problems, though. It was not the pinnacle of route building as one, you know, might hope when you're building a route. This I think is a much better project. Even the Horseman route had not insignificant problems with the way it was designed or the way it was built. It was kind of, in a way, it was kind of nonsensical. It was really designed to provide us a bunch of interesting sets, effectively. Which it did. It did its job. But okay, we've hit a bit of a barrier by the looks. Okay, that's not right though. How about 37 instead? That's right. That's better. Although, how about 39? There we go. That's about right. We're getting somewhere now. How about, let's try 45. See if that's too much. I hit 42. Maybe the world is trying to tell me something. I mean, it looks like a lot of water, but it's about right up here. Oh, crud. I don't... There we go. That's better. We've got to go one little piece at a time. So this is 45. Let's try 47. We're going up by 2 now. And then let me get rid of that and punch in 49. 7 squared. If you was smart, you would know that. 51. And then 53. As long as we get to keep going up and don't have to start going down at any point, that's, there we go. I do think that this is a little bit high, though. No. There is something in the middle here that needs to be fixed. So what was this? What is this? That's 45. Again, let's try 48. Because that's sort of in the middle. Alright, there we go. Alright, 51 again. No, let's just bump it up a notch. Go 55. No, that's real bad. That's not good at all. There's some water out here that's causing a problem. Let's do like that. Let's go 48 again. Oh, really? Okay. What did I just hit? There we go. We got 48 again. Let's try to slide in something in between here, like 50 or 51. No, I didn't want to do that. Come on, Tane Water. Work with me. No, I want 55 up there. No, I didn't want 51. I clicked on 55 stuff for a reason. No, I didn't want to delete all that. 35. No, don't do that. Why did it let me do that? In the middle. No. If I do this, we'll adjust the whole thing. I just flooded the entire world. Alright, note to self, don't use that tool ever. I guess we're just going to have to live with that, though. Okay, so... this... What is this? No, no, no. No. No, 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 it's supposed to... It usually does a good job of grabbing whatever water height you're working with when you place more water. Let's go like 70 on this one. That's actually not bad. It's not good, but it's almost heading the right direction, which is kind of freaky that we went up that fast. Yeah, see how it grabbed the water type there? Alright, so adjust the height of this so that we... No. Don't just punch holes in the ground. There we go. We've got to find out a way to make this look better. Probably like if I do this and this. So then you have that there. And I could do something like this. Yeah, that's probably as good as we're gonna get. Admittedly, this has gone better than I expected. We've done a fairly good job overall of making sure that our rivers just went, you know, in the right direction. Let's try 74. Now let's try 71 again. Let's go back to 1 steps. I think that's, you know, that's workable right now. You can take it easy and just do one little bit at a time. .74. I do miss the TV and RR for reasons, however. It was a very well fleshed out route. There was a lot going on over pretty much the whole thing, and I wasn't constrained by these silly rules of, you know, making things make sense and all that. Some of the best routes don't need to have any sort of sanity. Or, well, maybe not best, I should say most fun. Because I feel like that's accurate. You know, they're built wherever because you want them to go wherever. They're, you know, they just sort of go. Not 87, 81. Okay. We're almost there. We're almost all the way up. And it's looking good. No, not plateau. I want to remove water up to there. And then I want to jump to 83. There. No, okay, 85. That works. And then 86. How about not that? How about 87? And I sort of beefed up the amount of water a little bit farther downstream, which is something that you need to be careful with. 88. Okay, I thought that was actually getting slightly lower over there. I was concerned. 89. And then 90. 91. 92. Damn it. Okay, let's try this. 93. 94. I'm gonna go straight to 95. And then 96. But actually, 97. Yeah, the problem is it's still blocky. 98. And we're almost there. Let's just go straight to 99. Not that we would have really stopped along the way. Okay, continues going up. That's a good sign for my sort of intuition when I'm putting these things together. Still going up. Let's do 101. 102. There it is. Okay, so I knew that was a little bit of a divot. I didn't know how much of a divot it was. So it's less than I thought. Alright, so we got one river. What have we got? Alright, 42 minutes in. Let's do another question. Bonnie Gaming. Okay, this is going to be another long comment, they say. Although this isn't that long. First, I just want to say that Edward was my favorite character. Yes. Edward was awesome. You know what? I don't know why I didn't jump to Edward right away. I do like Edward a lot. He was always cool. But I don't know. Maybe I do like Toby more. Toby or Edward? Edward. What are your plan for after you finish this block, quote unquote? Okay. I'm going to go through the whole comment actually and then come back and answer everything. Second, what brand of model train stuff would you recommend in building a model railway? Third, who's your favorite engine in TIHC? Oh, that is a tough question. I don't know who my favorite... It's Ivan. No, I don't really know overall. I know that, you know, it's different whether I'm... Honestly, if I do factor everything together, it probably is Ivan, because Ivan is fun to write for, he's fun to voice, you know, he has a lot of interesting quirks that make his character interesting. He's got a cool backstory that we haven't really addressed yet, although I've written the episode that does. And I don't know, other than that, yeah, no, it is the fact that I do thoroughly enjoy Ivan. You know, and he was one of the characters that I was like, oh, we need to throw this in because we're idiots and we don't know the difference between these decapods. When, you know, in all seriousness, we do know the difference. And it was sort of just a running joke, and also the fact that in the Iron Horseman Chronicles, it isn't Russia as Russia. But that's, you know, that's something that'll come to light in a short story set at some point soon, TM. Spazzing out. Okay, how do I get across here? Do I want to go up and then that way and around, or this way and across the middle? I think I'm going to go across the middle. And I can definitely build it like this, where we just have a big bridge and these poles. Yeah, I could definitely do that. Okay, so I think that's what we're going to do. I do have to work on the other river, though. I did say I would. No. don't do that. That doesn't work. Okay, so there and there. I think that's a decent curve. And not too bad of a hill, although that's a little bit rough. What is this? That's 14. That's 11. How about like 13? I didn't realize I made it crooked. I didn't want to make it crooked. There we go. Alright, so there we go. We're gonna head out over the swamp. Okay, so, yeah, favorite engine in the Iron Horseman. To come back around to that a little more and talk about it a little bit more. Yeah, Ivan is definitely really fun for a lot of reasons. But he's not really, like, he's driven the plot a little bit. But, I don't know. I'm trying to think about it. Trying to think about this question some more. Sally's also really fun to write for. Cole would be an obvious favorite because he's sort of the main character. We didn't at all plan it like that. It just sort of happened. I have to say, a lot of things in the Iron Horseman Chronicles just sort of happened. The only reason Chris as a character exists is because he sent an email to us, which we haven't checked the address in a long time, but he sent an email to us asking if he could be in the series and if we would have a Reading T1. Or rather, I think it was the most important thing is he wanted to have a Reading T1 in the series, and in exchange he would buy it for us from K&L, which he did, and, you know, he would voice it if need be, and we went, sure, you know, we can do that, and then we basically wrote Season 2 around that character, which was fantastic. It was one of the coolest, like, because I always like to go for longer story arcs, and, you know, things that tie episodes together, and we hadn't really done that in Season 1. We were just sort of getting our feet wet and figuring out, you know, what this thing that we created really was. And then we were presented with this character, and we had to figure out a way to work him in. And it sort of just jumped out at us like President's Train, Korean War would have just ended. You know, it works. Holy crap, it actually works. We can write like the season based around this. And in the meantime, we can interweave this whole thing going on with Ivan. You know, it was big. It was a lot that sort of happened very quickly. And suddenly we had a whole season planned out. Is this really weirdly crooked? Oh crap, is there like, did I accidentally delete the, I did. No, I didn't. It's still there, it's just buried. Yeah. How about like 15? And then this one I can say is 12.5. Let's try it. There we go. What is this one? This one's a 12.5. Let's just pull it up so it's right on the surface. Mostly. There we go. Okay. So we want to build a sort of a highway causeway out that way. No, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like, because it's been a little while since I've sat down to write, because I've been very busy as of late. Thankfully I will, believe it or not, I'll have more time to do that when I'm working, because I'll have I'll have like 3 hours on a train every day that I can set aside for writing. So, yeah, it won't be that bad. It'll be easier to do. What height is this? 10.55. Whoa! Went to space. Why not? Although, I might actually want to push this out to, like, here. Because that makes a little bit more sense. You know, when we're back on solid ground, we don't need to do the causeway bit. Yeah. Okay, so we've got that. Dave is also really fun, but I haven't had the opportunity to write for him that much. I'm gonna see if I can do something really dumb here. What height is this? What height is this bridge? That's track. 8.70. And this is negative 2.49. So 1055, I believe it was 1055. What is this? 1055, yes. Alright, so 1055 minus 870 is a little bit less than 2, I think. Yeah, it's 1.8 something or so. Yeah, it's like 1.75, 1.65. What's the difference? So 0.55, yeah, 1.85 then? Yeah, 1.85. So 1.85 plus that. So you've got, it'd be negative 0.85, it'd be probably a 4. Yeah, 4 at the end. I don't know. I'm gonna try it. Either way, give me this. I don't need to do it. I don't know why I'm spending time doing math. All I need to do is pick it up, take it over there, and try it. But I can take a guess. It's gonna be like negative 0.5 or so. Negative 0.5. I think that might actually be too much. No, it's too little. So 0.6 then. Almost. Point like 5.8. No, negative 0.64. There we go. I knew it ended with a 4. I don't know why my brain turned off for a minute. I was able to get through plenty of that mental maths. And I'm gonna try something. Which this might be stupid, but... Actually, I just want this. I want to grab this area here. And I want to add... How come I can't place it down right on the... What the... Oh, did I... Yeah. No. Why? Why is it not lining up properly? What the hell? Okay, that's better. Okay. I think that actually works. That's too close. It actually works, he says, as he screws it up. Alright, there. There. Look at me, I'm copy-pasting on the show. Who else is... And I'm still trying to think about this. Like, who else is really great? Who's a great character? I mean, Hank is always fun to write situations around. Blount is, you know, not a bad character to write with. Because he's, you know, he's particularly, he's very level-headed, and he's sort of the, like, well, I guess, of the group. You know, he's sort of a, I'm not sure if foil is the right word. Or, you know, heel. I don't know. But my point is he's, you know, he sort of calms things down. Oh, and how could I forget? Sandy and Rangeley are fantastic. Honestly, I adore them. And even better, I love the, you know, the voice actors who I've known for, you know, basically all my life are just hilarious people, and so much of the stuff is, you know, they're literally losing it. Yeah, they start cracking jokes and stuff in the recording booth. Oh. That, like, everyone past this point is too long. Okay. Let's try that again and pay more attention to what's going on. The narrow gaugers I don't get to write for very much. Big Joe is, of course, fun to write for, but it's kind of constraining because he's not supposed to... Like, the thing is, I can't have him be his true self. Or, you know, as he is in the Johnson short stories, because he's supposed to be more toned down. And moreover, we try not to drop F-bombs on the show. In fact, it's, you know, a little bit of, you know, it's the one thing we really try to keep out of the scripts. Like, we can swear, but we can't just start dropping F-bombs all over the place. We try to not do that. So, we need to actually move this end slightly. Whoa, space. It's almost on the line, I would think. Wireframe is not going to help. But it's almost on the line. And the edges are basically on... Oh, I just realized what's going on here. No, wait. Yeah, it's cockeyed. It's Shaquad. It's not, there. Wait a minute. Yeah, right? It's straight now, right? No, it's not. What the hell? How is it? Oh, because it isn't actually lined up with the edges, it's lined up with the grid line in between. Okay. I glanced at it once and thought I knew what was going on, and I didn't. Alright, like that. More like. And the pillars are still slightly off. So let's just slide it over just a little bit. Instead of moving the pillars, just move the whole bridge. Makes sense, right? This is what we do in engineering, you know? I mean, in engineering, you'd already know where the pillars are going to go before you start building them. But, you know, that's beside the point. Okay, so we've got a wonky embankment, as we do. Spending an awful lot of time on these bridge pillars. But, you know, it's to make the copy-pasting go easier, because if I didn't copy-paste them, this would take me goddamn forever. Yeah, but the other thing with Big Joe is that, you know, the only reason he was censored is because the president was there. It wouldn't be on, you know, his engineer wouldn't care if he's dropping F-bombs all over the place necessarily. Because, you know, they're railroaders. But, you know, obviously you don't want to do that in front of the president, so they, you know, censored him. And that wouldn't hold up, really, in you know, quote-unquote reality, when there isn't an incredibly important man there, when he doesn't care, and so then we just have a bunch of F-bombs. So it becomes a little bit tricky sometimes to write for Big Joe. However, his voice actor definitely puts his all into that role. That I do have to say. What else? There we go. We've got a highway that snakes through the landscape. What was the other part of that question? Oh yeah, there were two other parts. One was, what block am I doing next? And I'm pretty sure it's this one, from here to Bellington. So it's another 15 miles along the shore side. We won't have to worry about the VMR, because it'll be far enough away. But, you know, we will be doing more of this kind of stuff, which I don't mind so much. But we'll actually be moving a little bit farther inland, so we'll have less shoreline running to worry about. We'll just be going through mostly farm fields, etc. I don't know why I just zoomed in over here. Sorry, I'm just putting my brain to use here. Yeah, but that's probably where I'm gonna go. The other thing was, what is my recommendations for model railroad stuff? And it depends on what you're asking me for. I don't have a lot of experience building, but typically I would probably recommend like Atlas, if we're talking HO scale, like Atlas track and switches and whatnot. I mean, I've sworn by Bachmann for a while. I'm not sure, but I've heard they've gone down in quality. Again, don't just take that from me, sort of look around. I know if you want, big important engines, obviously go for BLI, because they are pretty much second to none. Very, very good quality, and they're expensive, but you get what you pay for. This is the other thing. In model railroading, it is important to know that you do get what you pay for. It's one of the, it's certainly one of the hobbies where that is extremely true. It's niche enough that there aren't really people that are getting into it just to make money, sort of as sellers. Although if you do want good deals, go to hobby shows and stuff like that. And of course keep an eye out on eBay and all that jazz. But yeah, Atlas has been a staple for a very long time. I'm not the expert on this stuff though. You might get a better, if I sort of conferred with some other folks, I might get better answers for you. But yeah, no, those are my, definitely Atlas for track, and then BLI for big engines, and Bachmann for little stuff. Like Lee is a Bachmann mogul, and he's never let me down except for the fact that he's anemic and small. But really, just sort of go for what you want, If you want a specific engine, don't let a brand hold you back unless it's a particularly untrustworthy brand, like, I don't know, Tyco or something. A lot of unique stuff is available, but it is, available because a lot of unique stuff is only available from very old stock. And so that's something to look out for. A lot of models, like I always look at, you went to models for 50 and 51. Those models are pretty much only ever available in brass, or they're Mantua, or both. And Mantua is not a very good, a very great model company. I'm not sure how they are lately, but their old stuff is not, as far as I know, not exactly up to snuff. But I don't know. I'm not the expert on this. I'm really not. I just sort of look around and I look at stuff and I go, does this seem good? Does this name ring a bell in a good way or a bad way? I know that if I'm getting something from Bachmann or getting something from BLI, I expect some pretty high quality. But other than that, I don't have a lot of experience. There are a couple of newer sort of budding companies, I believe. Scale Trains is one of them, maybe? I don't know. That name sticks out in my head. I don't know. Again, I'm not the best at this. This is not my field of expertise. I could talk about Horseman characters more easily. Which, if we're not just talking locomotives, oh no, it is, what is your favorite engine? Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I haven't gotten to experience what all of the engines can bring to the table. Mark is fun. Mark and Lee. Gabe is obviously a riot to deal with, to write for. And I will be giving, I'm giving this from the perspective of a writer. I know this is kind of shameful, like a chef that doesn't taste his own cooking. I don't really watch the show. I just produce the episode and say, alright, that seems good, and then leave it at that. But honestly, I've never been one for these, other than Thomas and Friends, for these kinds of shows. The position that I have in the Horseman Chronicles just sort of fell into my lap, and it wasn't because I begged for it. It's just because nobody else was really working. Nobody else was doing very much, and I decided to be like, is this a thing that we're going to make real? Because we can do this. We can actually, this is a thing that we can do. And pushed everyone into making this series. Which, like I've stated before, the idea wasn't mine. I had never been part of most of these things. So we've got to get over there. This is like another Bridgecus Maximus. How long is it? It's a half a mile long. Where is Bridgecus Maximus? It's over here. This is like 3/4 of a mile long. I also feel like I haven't gotten to experience everything that Andy could bring to the table. Andy is the very, like, lawful good sort of thing. Although he doesn't like to get up in everybody's business. He will just sort of, you know, if he's there, he will point out that, you know, well, I don't think this is smart. You know, I don't think this is good or right or whatever. But he's not the one to go looking for wrongdoing and, you know, go on a crusade. If he's there, he's there. And if, of course, one of his friends is in trouble, then he's gonna show up and he's gonna make a good show of it. But you know, he's also paranoid. We sort of covered that. I wanted to send this off somewhere. I didn't want to deal with this coming through here. This highway does not really have a place here at Mason's Landing. So I need to get it off the map. I need to get it out there. Where are we? We're up to Little Creek. So I should build more terrain and then send the highway off this way. I need to get it out of here. Okay, other comment. Okay, Midwestern 261 Productions asks, in the future, could you make a part that is a huge Union station in a big town and try to set up all the signals and paths and stuff? Question mark. I would really love to see a functional Union station on this map if you were willing to try. Great episode, first time fully watching. Actually... Oh, there's a whole comment that goes on here. Alistar Severn asks, Midwestern 261 production, sorry for my ignorance, but being from the UK, what's the difference between a Union station and just a bog standard station? Curious. And Dean replies, a Union station is basically a terminal for one or more railroads. Doesn't necessarily have to be a terminal, it's just a large station that serves multiple railroads. The reason that they get the name Union Station is because it's generally from the union of a number of companies. You know, for example, the second Union Station in Providence, Rhode Island, or the second Union Station, or the first Union Station in Providence, Rhode Island. The second one is a good example, and it's kind of interesting and goofy at the same time. So, that station was built to serve 7 different railroads. You know, when you have multiple railroad companies coming into a single town, the thing that you want to do, the thing that you're trying to do, is make a singular station that'll handle all of their needs. That will, you know, that will fulfill what needs to be done. You know, it'll take care of, you know, the capacity wants of all these little railroad companies, or big railroad companies. You know, without them having to build a bunch of stations that, you know, without them having to build a bunch of stations that might not, oh crap. You know, that, you know, might not be near one another, that might be problematic, to operate because there are so many. Actually, here's a good example. I found this a better example than Providence. So in Boston, Massachusetts, there were 3 railroad companies that came in to meet at what is now North Station. One of them was the Fitchburg. One of them was... I just know one of them was the Fitchburg. And that was the Eastern Line, and there was a number of different companies. There were 3 different companies. The Fitchburg came in from the west, but its station was all the way on the east side. So it was the easternmost station, it was the westernmost company, and so it would fly over on a bridge the other 2 to get to its station, which is silly. But that's the way it was. And those, you know, some of that infrastructure is still present, although it's not as useful anymore. the reason it's not as useful anymore is because the companies that, the companies that were competing for station space decided to band together and build one station, which would be called North Union Station, or North Station. And it would fulfill the needs of everyone that was coming in. Another example is in the same place in Boston. There is now South Station, which used to be South Union Station, or just South Station. And it was largely because the two major railroads, there were only two at this point, the Boston and Albany and the New Haven, wanted a place, wanted one singular location that they could pull trains into. Because there were a number of stations cluttered at the south end of Boston for a long time. Or sort of clustered, which contributed to clutter, I suppose. At the south end of Boston for many years, up to like 5 different stations. And eventually the railroads consolidated, but they also just consolidated their stations, so they built one Union Station. And it handled the it handled all the traffic that was coming in and that needed to stop at the south end of Boston, all the passenger traffic. So that's what a Union Station is in short. It's a number of railroads that have built a station to fulfill everyone's needs, so that you don't have a number of different stations, different terminals. In Gilson City, I will be building a Union Station. It will be very large. It will have to handle a large number of trains per day. Actually, if I want to bring up another Union Station example, I think one of the best ones, at least for me right now, because I've been thinking about it and talking with people about it, is over here in Troy, where we have had a station that served the Boston and Maine, the Rutland, the Delaware and Hudson, and the New York Central. And because Troy is very limited in size, it has a very steep hill on one side, and there's a very steep hill on one side, and and a very wide river on the other, which would be the Hudson River. Creating stations for all the different railroads was effectively out of the question. So they built one station, and they had all the railroads come into that. Now this, again, it's a union of different railroads. That's why it's a Union Station, although in this case I believe it was sort of built by the city instead of built by the different railroads coming together, which is not an unusual case either, because it's generally the cities that want to reduce the amount of mess that the railroad is causing, with tracks running everywhere. Although, again, Troy was a particularly important case because we were very limited in space. But yeah, I know, I will be building a Union Station, most certainly. It'll be for only 2 railroads. Well, no, it'll be for 3. It will be for the Gilson Eastern and the Zion and Skyline when they meet in Gilson City. And there will be a number of other stations that are also served by one or both of those railroads, but the other railroad that will serve that station is the New Shoreham Tramway. And they will have lines going all over, but they will serve that station in a number of capacities, including probably elevated lines and stuff like that. I'm gonna need to finish this side of the river. So I've started going up Little Creek. Oh, this was the other canyon that I had to work on. Not Little Creek. Okay, well, let's work on this then. How far are we in? We're an hour 19. Okay, so... Oh, crap. Something I just realized about the Titfield Thunderbolt, and I don't know, maybe this will be cleared up when I watch the movie, is So it was just an engine that was sat in a museum, not doing anything, probably not properly maintained or inspected. It was just sitting in the museum, and they just pull it out and run it. And so I guess there's definitely some purposeful subversion of reality there, because you wouldn't want to bog down the film with figuring out, oh, is it good? Let's do an ultrasound, or let's do a hydro, or whatever. It's steal the engine, put a fire in it, and run it, which is fine for the movies. I probably, if I were to go and rate my version, would probably not be that so cavalier, I suppose is the right word. It would be very, very like, oh, this everything's aligned. The other thing is, it's in Titfield. The museum is another entity from the railroad in this case. The other thing is that I just thought is, so think about this modern day Titfield Thunderbolt scenario, where okay, yeah, I'm thinking, I'm doing a think. So figure this modern day scenario. You have and I don't assume anyone here is really familiar with this line, but it's a commuter line. I'm not sure how many passengers it really carries, but say the local government says, yeah, you can run, we'll give you the money to run a little trial service. And they basically go, okay. We need to get equipment. And they say, well, that's what the money's for. Get some equipment. And they sort of scratch their heads, and then they go to the Danbury Railroad Museum, where they have RDCs and stuff like that. They have cars. And they go, okay, we need to borrow some stuff. We need to take stuff out of the museum to use for this purpose. And the museum's like, okay, I guess you can do that. We'll lease it to you for this price. And they sort of say, yeah, because they don't have any other options. And they lease it, they take it out, and then it gets sabotaged. It gets damaged by this bus company or whatever. Although I think it would be particularly poignant almost to make it not the wow, I'm having deja vu real hard. Not a bus service, because that's not necessarily realistic in this setting, but like a rails to trails organization, where they want the railroad gone so they can turn it into a bike path, and the good folks of Danbury are fighting the good fight in this exaggerated way. We are still going uphill. And so they get this and they start running the thing, and the trail people sabotage it, and so they're left with, what are we going to do now? Well, there's 1455 in the museum, which, they don't run 1455 because they don't feel like, because there just isn't enough money in the budget for something like that. And okay, so we need to go up higher. They did run it, but there's a new director in the museum who doesn't want to use steam and figures it's a waste of money and blah 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 blah. So they go, well, we need to get the engine, and so it comes down to them stealing this engine from the museum and running it out in the dead of night. And then using it for the service when the inspection comes around. Yeah, it makes sense. And it makes enough sense. It makes as much sense as the Titfield Thunderbolt does. more or less. You know, figure you have a lot of these things that would be happening at once. You've got the new museum director who doesn't like steam. You've got the trail people who want the right-of-way turned into a bike path, and you've got, you know, these guys that are trying to preserve the commuter service, or at least some semblance of service. Now, it doesn't even have to be the whole line. You know, say it's you know, a line north of there or something. You know, something that doesn't in the current era receive service, but could hypothetically. And so then, so then you can paint it as, you know, relatively podunk areas where you've got smaller, tight-knit communities. Because I feel like one of the important things, and I'm getting at this out of the trailer, so, you know, stop me. But I feel like one of the important things in Titfield is that the town is very, you know, very tight-knit and very about this thing. Although, you know, maybe that, you know, part of that isn't, because you've got the guy that shoots at the train in the trailer. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting this all wrong, but you know, in a smaller community, it's harder to have that that sect that gives opposition, as opposed to just having the entire community on that side of things, and the entire premise would be that the community isn't on that side of things because they want to keep the service, and that's why they're doing all this. So, yeah. I don't know. I think it could be fun. Because having the novelty of seeing the engine is, I think something that's important. Just having that, you know, sort of weirdness, that unusualness. Again, having a steam engine necessarily, like, it's not weird enough for me. It's like, oh, okay, they had a steam engine and they lost it, so they got another one. And yeah, I get that it's supposed to be a historically important steam locomotive, but at the same time, I can't just go, well, they just got another steam engine. Like, you know, from my point of view in 2018, it's not all that, you know, or it is. The weird part is having a steam engine in the first place, and I know that it's set in 1953. I know that, you know, it's not weird from their point of view, but I'm saying it sort of, you know, it takes me out of it a little bit. It isn't as triumphant of a tale as it could be. Because, it, you know, okay, they got another steam engine. It's cool. But it doesn't give me, like, the nostalgia boner that I was hoping for. Where are we? Alright, hour and 28. Okay. So, gonna continue up the hill. Let's go to 31. And let's reduce the radius. Uh... 33. Get rid of that. Let's do 35. Nope, I hit 36, but that's what I wanted to do. Because that's just about enough. I don't know why I want to lower the ground. In fact, I want to raise the ground. I want to make the stream narrower. Because having this much water flowing over these falls is like, yeah, but where's all this water coming from? I don't necessarily want all this volume. Get rid of that, though. Yeah, whatever. Good enough. Okay, so we've got to get to over there. And then we've got to continue on, which it definitely goes back down over here, so that's kind of a problem. The other thing is, you'd want to make this movie in real life with an engine that does work, so you'd try to look for a situation that you can use. But there really isn't one. There's not really one that I know of that matches this quandary, this issue of, okay, well, we've got an engine, we've got a functional steam engine, it just doesn't run. Because I feel like when you have a functional steam engine, it does. Like, generally the prerogative is to get it to run, because you've got one. Unless you want to do it on a much larger scale. Unless you want to do it on a much, much larger scale, where you have something like, okay, Amtrak is, Amtrak has sort of stepped back its policy of doing these trains. So, it makes it less, less likely that you'll see a large engine on the main line. Okay, whatever. It's disappointing, but it's, it is the way it is. But then you have, okay, Amtrak also wants to cut back on its long-distance trains. And this is where it gets, it gets more and more outrageous, more and more outlandish. But if you were to rally people to get, although, again, having the steam engine wouldn't necessarily be something that everyone rallies behind. It would be the last-ditch effort by the people who are really close to the project. So, okay, yeah. Now we're getting somewhere else. Now we're getting really interesting. And now there are engines that could fulfill this, and engines that have been sort of in movies before and stuff like that. And I'm thinking of 4449 in this case, or like 261, for like the Empire Builder, or just to tickle Graham's fancy, like 2926 for the Southwest Chief. But you'd have to have one that is at one end, and then you wouldn't really have the trail people. Although then you could have the freight companies instead. So think about it this way. Say I'm gonna use. Do I want to use the Empire Builder as the example, or do I want to use the Southwest Chief? I think I want to use the Chief. So, yeah. Amtrak is discontinuing the Southwest Chief, and the communities along the line are upset about this, and they want to, continue to have service, even if it's on even if it's not necessarily on the most regular basis. They want to have something. The one train a day is still something, and that's what they were getting, and they think that's, that's important. And this comes from outreach groups in all of the major cities along the line, and some of the minor cities too. And maybe especially the minor cities, because those are the ones that seem to benefit from Amtrak the most. But, the point is, so they go, okay, well, listen, if you pull some equipment together, we can give you, a stipend and see how it goes. Or actually, no, you know what? No, I don't. Yeah, we can give you a stipend, see how it goes. And they go, okay, well, we'll put something together, and, we'll have a month trial, and then you can come and observe. You can take a ride on it and see how it is, and if it's good, you can continue giving us the stipend for it, if you think the service is adequate for what you're giving us. And, the inspector reluctantly agrees. The Amtrak guys say, alright, well, okay, you can do that. The freight company is like, I don't want you to do this, because we want to be able to use those tracks, without this Amtrak interference. And they go, well, you know, tough luck. We're doing a thing there. This is for the people along the line. And so they, you know, they set out to do this. They gather some equipment up, you know, maybe some stuff from museums, or maybe some stuff that was going to be retired, maybe a couple Pacific parlor cars, and you know, they set out to make this service they want a reality. And they do, and they have it for almost the whole month, although, you know, they face opposition, you know, maybe in part from communities, but that probably wouldn't matter because the freight trains are still there. So they face some opposition, but mostly it's the freight companies trying to prey on them. And so, you know, the month goes by and they almost make it through, and in the last day, there's a dispatching error, which ends up derailing, dispatching error, quote unquote, which ends up derailing the locomotive and puts it out of commission. And also, just as an aside, no freight railroad would ever agree to be the railroad in this film. But maybe something like, let's make up a fake railroad, one that would have never like properly existed. How about like Southern Pacific Santa Fe? And then, you know, they're like, okay, what do we do now? And 29, 26, that's been stifled by, you know, these new Amtrak things and not been able to run, is like, well, we have an engine if you guys want to use it. And they go, all right, yeah, we can do that. And so they take that engine out. Although that removes the heist aspect of it, the engine heist, which I think is one of the most fun, you know, things. Although I'm not sure if it's an actual heist in Titfield. It sort of looked like it was. And you did say steal in the comment, didn't you? Yeah, they're stealing. So, not like borrowing because they aren't using it, or because they're like, yeah, you can use this. Stealing. So I think the version with Danbury is a more applicable one. Should write that script. But I feel like the other one is almost more fitting / topical. Because of the recent changes with Amtrak. Oh crap, yeah, this gets pretty deep, doesn't it? Well, it seems we have a lake. Well, I guess. That's where all this water's coming from. We didn't actually build a valley out. We just sort of marked it down and said, hey, water's coming in this way. Alright, how about 60? Alright, lower this. Raise this. Yeah, it's particularly difficult to accomplish, making that edge correct. There. Slightly better. Significantly better, I guess. But still, we have that flare out at the end, which is not what I want. Urgh. Okay. Whatever, we'll live with it. Get rid of that. Let's go down. Now, see, now I'm going down. This isn't what you want. You want to go the other way. You want to go up. I mean, I have the easy option to do that. I'm just not right now. Okay. How about 58? To fill in this gap in between. There we go. It's a very straight river. Probably shouldn't have it like that. But whatever, we got a river now. Where are our roads going currently? So, we have one that obviously isn't going to get across there. In fact, it's probably going to have to cross somewhere way up here. Yeah. I don't know. I want to come back to some of these questions a little bit, but I can't stop thinking about my rendition of Titfield. While we're here, let's string more power lines. So, Titfield, Thunderbolt. Yeah, I don't know. I need to move off of that subject because I feel like I've talked about it enough. If you guys like think of anything, if you guys want to do research, if you guys want to like propose ideas for this imaginary script, I will totally be down to talk about them. Somebody actually on the Terminus sent me a link to to something that he was writing. He wants me to look it over. I don't know what it is. I haven't bothered to look at it yet or not. I haven't bothered is the wrong word. I tried to look at it and I didn't have permission to view it. So there was an attempt. I tried. And I just wrote back to him saying I can't look at it. But yeah, no, I did try. But anyways, the losing control again. Go back to the Horseman, I guess, because that's something that I can obviously talk about. Yeah, favorite engine. I mean, see, I would love to say Katie, but Katie just goes very well with Kurt, and she fits in very well with Cole. Again, their relationship is something that just sort of happened. Everything just sort of happened. But, yeah, the fact of the matter is we you know, it just sort of came about. You know, of all the female characters, I don't think she's characterized that well. There are definitely characters that don't have as much characterization yet. I feel like some of the stuff with Andy has tried to mitigate his problems with characterization, but there just haven't been enough episodes that are centered around some characters, Katie included. Even though she's showed up in Cole episodes, I don't think she's gotten enough, like as much screen time as she really needs to sort of be who she ought to be. To be fully developed. And it, you know, as time goes on, we develop the characters more. As time goes on, we sort of almost learn more about these characters that we've created, and how they react, because we put them in situations, and we think, okay, well, now what? You know, what do we do? and you know, we sort of have to think around their personalities and feel, you know, sort of feel out, okay, what would the response really be? And sometimes it's difficult to suss out, just because, like, why would they be in this situation? You know, I feel like writing, you know, I don't do a very good job of writing, like, you know, flirting. I feel like I do a much better job of writing banter. But, you know, to go through some of these characters and have that as, you know, sort of a thing that happens to them / a thing that they do, you know, in a way makes me think a lot about that. And so these characters that are in that kind of situation, I tend to like writing for a little bit less because it's more difficult for me. And like I said, that is really where it where it goes for me. It's where, you know, you're saying, what character do I like the most, and what character, you know, or what engine do I like the most? But I will always have to phrase it from the point of view of, well, I write for the show, so, you know, I'm the head writer for the show, so I really have to think about, you know, that's what leaves the impression on me the most. It's the sort of, okay, well, let me think about, you know, how I feel when I'm writing for these characters. You know, whether or not that will be an accurate reflection. I mean, honestly, I would probably identify with Blount a lot. That sort of worn down, like, all right, I guess we're doing this today, sort of thought, sort of mindset, I guess. You know, it's very relatable, and that's why I think he's a great character. Whereas Lee just being, you know, sort of not so subtly racist towards diesels, and especially hating at times, like, you know, but being very focused on what he wants, and being very dead set. I think he's also a great character. You know, I think that everyone has their merits. There are just some characters that have been able to be developed more than others. Although, to be honest, I don't think, you know, one of the characters that got a lot of screen time, Gabe, I feel like is a little bit too, not too crazy, but too cliched in his crazy. We've sort of, you know, we've given him a lot of stuff to work with, but he's not a very diverse character. Like, he's not really that unusual, or not that he isn't unusual, he's extremely unusual, but he doesn't change, really. He's just the sort of, you know what to expect from him in terms of, it's going to be crazy. You're not going to be able to predict how it's going to be crazy, but you know that it's like, oh, Gabe's here, this is just going to be, you know, nutty ridiculousness. Which, you know, I love having him in episodes because it adds this sort of weird flair to it. But at the same time, it's like, you know, Gabe's crazy. That's sort of it. It ends there. I feel like there are, you know, one of the engines that does need more screen time because they need to develop a little bit more is Hebert. And he wasn't really introduced for a while, and a lot of the characters that weren't introduced right away suffer from this. And even some of the ones that do, because I mentioned Katie. But the Eastern Division people, Doyle and Eric, especially, I feel like there could be a lot more going on with them. Doyle is also very, like, lawful good, but he's really more of, like, neutral good, because he will go and he will do something if he thinks it's going to be an improvement. He doesn't want to ruin anyone's day. He really, really doesn't want to ruin anyone's day. But this, you know, the sort of mentality he has is like the idea that, well, you know, maybe people could do these things a little bit differently. You know, maybe like the sort of crusader attitude. Like, I have to go and do something, no matter what no matter what anyone says, I've got to go and do something that's going to, that's going to make this person better, or it's going to help this person. His heart's in the right place. He's got a gigantic heart, but he doesn't really, like, I don't know, he doesn't really articulate or utilize it particularly well. And that's Doyle. That's him in a nutshell. And I'm not saying Doyle the person, I'm saying Doyle the engine. I don't know Doyle. He's chum. I don't know McCormick. But he's very simple like that. And it's not to say that he's simple like he's stupid, but he's simple in that he thinks of things in this, relatively non-convoluted way. In that, something is wrong, I'm going to do something, I'm going to fix it. But, yeah. He's not very complicated. He's not very Machiavellian. Whereas Mark is completely opposite. Mark will easily, go out of his way to manipulate somebody. Maybe not even because he gains something from it, but usually because he wants to gain something from it. Usually that's sort of the go-to. Usually that's his reasoning. He's in it for him. He's not evil, but he's kind of, he would probably be a little bit backstabby. He has a conscience. He's not, completely immoral, but at the same time, he doesn't really care that much. Whereas Eric is that taken to the extreme, where it doesn't matter if he's actually benefiting himself. If he thinks he's going to benefit himself from what he's doing, he will do it in spades. But again, I haven't really had time to flesh him out all that much, and I don't like him. I don't like him as a person, because I think that, that kind of thing is amoral, and it is. That's what we were going for. But, obviously I couldn't like him. Mark has a sort of, almost like an evil charm. Like the anti-hero sort of, but I don't know. I know who's the there's definitely a character that's the, I'll be the good guy if I have to be. That's probably Sally, because she has a heart. It's not like she's evil. She's just sort of self-centered and conceited. It's just the way she is. Which is, I won't say it's okay, but it's just the way she is. And so she's a fun character. I probably couldn't stand her, in reality. I'd probably align myself with somebody more like Sam. And also, notice how I haven't mentioned Johnson. Now that I have, I might as well talk about him, because I feel like Johnson is one of those that still hasn't had enough development. He hasn't had enough, enough screen time, and he really doesn't have the opportunity to. He's very much me, obviously, although he's, different in some ways. But in a very general sense, he's very much me. And, I feel like that almost hinders my ability to write for him, because it's like, well, what would... it makes it easy, because it's like, what would I do? But at the same time, it's also a question of, okay, it's obvious that Johnson is, pseudo-me. Do I really want to make it, A, that obvious, or B, make it so that, make it so that it's a, oh God, I'm forgetting what I'm trying to say. This is not good. Do I want to make it that obvious that it's me? And do I want to sort of toot my own horn, saying in this situation I would do this thing? So, you know, I'm trying to be careful with him, and at the same time, I think it's, you know, it's almost hindering his ability to grow into the character that it could be. You know, he's also very much like a neutral good or a lawful good. At the same time, you know, he might be almost like, and I haven't explored this that much, but you could also call him, you know, at times like a... No, I don't know. I don't know. Chris is probably true neutral or like chaotic neutral. Because he's Chris. Let me see. I don't like the way these roads are coming out right away. Like... Put that road back. Go that way. Whoops. I wanted to connect that. Invincible. Okay. Like so. I will have to look up how some of these older towns looked. And sort of what their street grids were like. And obviously these aren't going to be all paved roads like this. In fact, this will probably be the only like paved road, and maybe this one, and the rest of them are going to be like that. But yeah, this is sort of what I'm thinking about. It's like, okay, what is the arrangement of town really going to look like here, and how does this town work? Like, why does it exist up here? Who does what? Because there's not going to be anything like real heavy duty up here, because there's no railroad connection. So, I don't know what, you know, I don't know why this town would exist, and I need to think about that. And once I come up with a good reason, then I can actually build it. But I don't know what the town would look like. Honestly, a kind of, almost like a resort town would do it, I guess. You know, have some stuff over by the lake. And maybe that's why Adams is a stop. I mean, a resort town might make sense. A tourist town. But, you know, there isn't enough area here for farming and stuff like that. And there definitely wouldn't be a reason for an industry to be up here. Like a large industry. The town gets everything by truck, so it's going to be relatively new. Although we could say there was a farm up here on the flats, and it sort of came undone. I have remnants of like farm walls and whatever. You know, even leave this as a clearing and have an abandoned farmhouse in there as well. I don't know, I'm thinking about this. If you guys have any ideas, please let me know. Yeah, this is sort of the middle of nowhere, so I don't know what would necessarily cause that to be the case. Although I could add another road going off, you know, that way. Because this would be then a crossroads, and it would almost make sense. But then there's nothing at the end of this road, it's just the highway. But then again, Powderhorn exists. But then again, I'm trying to have some population here. I don't know. Maybe just people moved out here. God knows. God knows why. They work in Olive. That's not that far of a drive. And you've got the train as well.
But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. Train Man out.